Life as we know it is made up of a few essential elements. These elements are the building blocks of all living organisms on Earth. In this video, we will explore the fundamental elements that make up life and their importance in biological systems. From carbon to nitrogen, oxygen to phosphorus, we will delve into the chemistry of life and discover how these elements interact to create the complex web of life on our planet. The chemical elements that are essential for the existence of life are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. These 6 elements are the building blocks of all known life on Earth. 1. Carbon is the most important element for life as it forms the backbone of organic molecules such as proteins, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids. 1. Nitrogen is a key component of amino acids and nucleotides, which are the building blocks of proteins and nucleic acids respectively. 1. Oxygen is essential for respiration and energy production in cells. 1. Phosphorus is a component of DNA and RNA, which carry genetic information in cells. 1. Sulfur is found in some amino acids and is important for protein structure. 1. Scientists study the elements for life using a variety of methods. One way is to look for the presence of these elements in living organisms and their environment. For example, scientists can analyze the chemical composition of rocks, soil, and water to determine the abundance of these elements. They can also study the DNA and proteins of living organisms to understand how these elements are used to build and maintain life. 2. Another way scientists study the elements for life is by conducting experiments in the lab. For example, they can create artificial environments that mimic conditions on other planets or moons to see if life can survive under those conditions. They can also study how different organisms respond to changes in their environment, such as changes in temperature or pH. 2. Overall, scientists use a combination of observational and experimental methods to study the elements for life and understand how they contribute to the development and maintenance of living organisms. The interactions between the elements that form life are complex and multifaceted. These elements interact with each other in a variety of ways to create the building blocks of life, such as proteins, nucleic acids, and carbohydrates. For example, carbon is the backbone of organic molecules such as proteins and carbohydrates. Nitrogen is a key component of amino acids and nucleotides, which are the building blocks of proteins and nucleic acids respectively. Oxygen is essential for respiration and energy production in cells. Phosphorus is a component of DNA and RNA, which carry genetic information in cells. Sulfur is found in some amino acids and is important for protein structure. 1. These elements interact with each other through chemical bonds such as covalent bonds, ionic bonds, and hydrogen bonds. Covalent bonds are formed when atoms share electrons, while ionic bonds are formed when atoms transfer electrons to each other. Hydrogen bonds are formed when a hydrogen atom in one molecule is attracted to an ultranegative atom in another molecule. The interactions between the elements that form life can change under different environmental conditions. For example, changes in temperature, pH, and pressure can affect the stability and reactivity of organic molecules. 1. In addition, the availability of certain elements can also affect the interactions between elements. For example, the availability of phosphorus can limit the growth of organisms in aquatic ecosystems. 1. Similarly, the availability of nitrogen can limit plant growth in terrestrial ecosystems. 1. Overall, the interactions between the elements that form life are complex and can be influenced by a variety of environmental factors. Scientists continue to study these interactions to gain a better understanding of how life functions and adapts to different conditions. The interactions between the elements that form life can change in extreme environments such as deep sea vents or hot springs. These environments are characterized by high temperatures, high pressures, and/or extreme pH levels, which can affect the stability and reactivity of organic molecules. 1. For example, some organisms that live in deep sea vents use hydrogen sulfide as an energy source instead of sunlight. 1. These organisms have adapted to the extreme conditions of their environment by developing unique biochemical pathways that allow them to survive and thrive in these conditions. Similarly, some organisms that live in hot springs have adapted to the high temperatures and extreme pH levels of their environment by developing specialized enzymes that are stable at high temperatures and low pH levels. 1. These enzymes are known as extremozymes and have potential applications in biotechnology and industry. Overall, the interactions between the elements that form life can change in extreme environments, and scientists continue to study these interactions to gain a better understanding of how life functions and adapts to different conditions. The elements that make up life were formed through a process called nucleosynthesis. During the Big Bang, only the lightest elements such as hydrogen and helium were formed. The other elements were formed in the course of stars through nuclear fusion reactions too. Small stars like our Sun produce lighter atoms through fusion reactions, while larger stars with heavier cores make the heavier elements up to iron too. The rest of the elements are forged by exploding supernovae or the death of largest stars too. Powerful stellar explosions are the source of many of the elements of the periodic table, including those that make up the human body. Scientists use a technique called spectroscopy to determine the chemical composition of stars. Spectroscopy involves analyzing the wavelengths of light that are absorbed or emitted by different elements. Each element absorbs light at specific wavelengths unique to that atom. When astronomers look at an object's spectrum, they can determine its composition based on these wavelengths. The most common method astronomers use to determine the composition of stars, planets, and other objects is spectroscopy. Today, this process uses instruments with a grating that spreads out the light from an object by wavelength. This spread out light is called a spectrum. Every element, and combination of elements, has a unique fingerprint that astronomers can look for in the spectrum of a given object. To identify those fingerprints allows researchers to determine what it is made of. That fingerprint often appears as the absorption of light. Every atom has electrons, and these electrons like to stay in their lowest energy configuration. But when photons carrying energy hit an electron, they can boost it to higher energy levels. This is absorption, and each element's electrons absorb light at specific wavelengths, that is, energies, related to the difference between energy levels in that atom. But the electrons want to return to their original levels, so they don't hold on to the energy for long. When they emit the energy, they release photons with exactly the same wavelengths of light that were absorbed in the first place. An electron can release this light in any direction, so most of the light is emitted in directions away from our line of sight. Therefore, a dark line appears in the spectrum at that particular wavelength. Because the wavelengths at which absorption lines occur are unique for each element, astronomers can measure the position of the lines to determine which elements are present in a target. The origin of life on Earth is still a mystery that scientists are trying to unravel. However, there are several theories about how life may have formed on our planet. One theory is that life emerged from a primordial soup of organic molecules that were present on Earth around 3.5 billion years ago. These molecules may have been formed through chemical reactions in the atmosphere or in the oceans, and over time, they may have combined to form more complex organic compounds. Another theory is that life may have been brought to Earth by comets or meteorites from other parts of the universe too. These objects may have contained organic molecules that were able to survive the journey through space and impact with Earth too. Regardless of how life originated, it is clear that the elements carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur played a crucial role in the development of life on Earth. These elements are the building blocks of all known life on our planet and are found in everything from DNA to proteins to carbohydrates. Over time, these organic molecules may have combined to form more complex structures such as cell membranes and genetic material. The first living organisms were likely single-celled organisms that were able to survive in harsh environments such as hot springs or deep-sea vents. From these humble beginnings, life on Earth has evolved into the diverse array of organisms that we see today. Scientists continue to study the origins of life on our planet in order to gain a better understanding of how it all began. The Miller-Urey experiment was an experimental simulation conducted in 1953 by American chemist Stanley Miller and American scientist Harold C. Urey at the University of Chicago. The experiment attempted to replicate the conditions of Earth's early atmosphere and oceans to test whether organic molecules could be created biogenically, that is, formed from chemical reactions occurring between inorganic molecules thought to be present at the time. The experiment involved creating a closed system that contained a mixture of water, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen gases, which were believed to be present in the early Earth's atmosphere. The mixture was then subjected to electrical discharges to simulate lightning strikes, which were thought to be a source of energy for chemical reactions. After running the experiment for a week, Miller and Urey found that several organic molecules had formed in the system, including amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. This result demonstrated that chemical evolution, that is, the formation of complex chemicals from simple ones, is possible under certain conditions. The Miller experiment is considered a landmark study in the field of abiogenesis and has been used as evidence to support hypotheses about the origins of life on Earth. Organic molecules can be formed in other environments besides Earth's early atmosphere and oceans. For example, organic molecules have been discovered in interstellar clouds, which are regions of space that contain gas and dust. These molecules are thought to have formed through chemical reactions that occur in the extreme conditions of space, such as exposure to ultraviolet radiation and cosmic rays. In addition, organic molecules have been found in meteorites, which are rocks that have fallen to Earth from space too. These molecules may have formed on other planets or moons and were transported to Earth through meteorite impacts too. Overall, the formation of organic molecules is not limited to Earth's early atmosphere and oceans. These molecules can form in a variety of environments throughout the universe. Scientists study the chemical composition of interstellar clouds using a technique called spectroscopy. Spectroscopy involves analyzing the electromagnetic radiation that interstellar clouds emit or absorb, which can provide information about the chemical composition of the cloud. Large radio telescopes scan the intensity in the sky of particular frequencies of electromagnetic radiation, which are characteristic of certain molecule spectra. Some interstellar clouds are cold and tend to give out electromagnetic radiation of large wavelengths. A map of the abundance of these molecules can be made, enabling an understanding of the varying composition of the clouds. In hot clouds, there are often ions of many elements, whose spectra can be seen in visible and ultraviolet light. Radio telescopes can also scan over the frequencies from one point in the map, recording the intensities of each type of molecule. Peaks of frequencies mean that an abundance of that molecule or atom is present in the cloud. The height of the peak is proportional to the relative percentage that it makes up to. Overall, spectroscopy is a powerful tool for studying the chemical composition of interstellar clouds and has provided valuable insights into the nature and evolution of these fascinating objects. The possibility of life made of other elements is a fascinating topic that has been explored in science fiction and scientific research. While carbon is the most important element for life as we know it, other elements such as silicon have been proposed as possible alternatives. However, the chemistry of silicon makes it unlikely that it could be the basis for alien life forms. Silicon oxidizes to a solid, which makes it difficult to support life. In addition, a life form needs some way to collect, store, and utilize energy, which must come from the environment. Carbon-based life forms use carbohydrates as their basic storage element, which oxidizes to water and carbon dioxide. Silicon-based life forms would need to find an alternative way to store and utilize energy that is not based on carbon chemistry. Despite these challenges, scientists continue to explore the possibility of life made of other elements. For example, researchers have discovered organic molecules in interstellar clouds and meteorites, which suggests that the formation of organic molecules is not limited to Earth's early atmosphere and oceans. Overall, while carbon-based life is the only known form of life on Earth, the possibility of life made of other elements cannot be ruled out. Scientists continue to study this fascinating topic in order to gain a better understanding of the nature and diversity of life in the universe. The study of non-carbon-based life is still in its infancy, and there is no definitive answer on how to study it. However, scientists have proposed several methods for detecting and studying alternative biochemistries. One approach is to look for the presence of elements other than carbon in the atmosphere or on the surface of planets or moons. For example, silicon has been proposed as a possible alternative to carbon, and scientists have searched for evidence of silicon-based life on other planets. Another approach is to look for the presence of organic molecules that are not based on carbon. For example, researchers have discovered organic molecules in interstellar clouds and meteorites that contain elements such as nitrogen and sulfur. These molecules may be the building blocks of alternative biochemistries. Overall, the study of non-carbon-based life is an exciting and rapidly evolving field. Scientists continue to explore new methods for detecting and studying alternative biochemistries in order to gain a better understanding of the nature and diversity of life in the universe. Organic molecules are molecules that contain carbon atoms, usually bonded to hydrogen atoms. These molecules are typically associated with living organisms and include compounds such as carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids. Inorganic molecules, on the other hand, do not contain carbon-hydrogen bonds and are often simpler in structure than organic molecules. Examples of inorganic molecules include water, salts, and metals. 1. The primary difference between organic and inorganic molecules is the presence of carbon-hydrogen bonds. Organic molecules always contain carbon-hydrogen bonds, while inorganic molecules do not too. This difference in structure leads to differences in the properties and reactivity of organic and inorganic molecules. That was all. Goodbye.